The Wild West was where a man could ride into town, duel at high noon, and then get arrested for whistling on a Sunday. Yes, really. Back in the days of saloons, outlaws, and questionable hygiene, lawmakers tried their best to control the chaos. But in the process, they came up with bizarre rules. You'd think they were written by a drunk cowboy with a grudge against fun. And the best part? Some of these wild, ridiculous laws still exist today. No jumping out of a moving car at 65 miles per hour. California. Most traffic laws are built on common sense. No speeding, no texting while driving, no using your car as a boat. But this one? It is the product of an extremely specific incident involving a particularly stubborn daredevil and a confused judge. Suppose California lawmakers felt the need, in that case, to forbid exiting a vehicle at 65 miles per hour explicitly suggests that someone eventually took a spectacularly bad idea and turned it into reality. The number 65 is also suspicious. California's standard highway speed limit has long been set at 65 miles per hour, meaning this law likely targets people who decide to bail out while cruising down a freeway. But why stop there? Is jumping out at 64 miles per hour an acceptable life choice? What about 66 miles per hour? Does the punishment increase because you were asking for it? The world may never know. With classic westerns, silent film slapstick, and later big-budget blockbusters featuring daring car chase, perhaps enough wannabe stunt performers attempted their high-speed exits that lawmakers decided they had to intervene. There may have been a particularly aggressive game of "I bet you won't" among thrill seekers. Maybe one too many cowboys tried to swap horses for Mustangs, the car, not the animal. Whatever the reason, California officially declared, enough is enough. No driving with an uncaged bear, Missouri. One can only imagine the events that led to this law being created. Did some fearless or foolish frontiersman decide that a grizzly bear would make a great co-pilot? Was there a time when Missouri's roads were clogged with wagons carrying unruly bears in the back seat? Or did one incident go so wrong that lawmakers felt the need to make sure it never happened again? The real reason behind the law is likely rooted in the traveling circus culture of the late 1800s and early 1900s. During this time, wild animals were often transported across states for entertainment. A bear might have easily escaped mid-journey without proper enclosures, sending entire towns into chaos. Imagine stopping at a roadside inn for a quick meal, only to find a full-grown bear casually exiting a carriage and stretching its legs. If that happened even once, it would be enough to convince lawmakers that stricter bear transportation laws were necessary. Despite its Wild West origins, this law is still officially on the books. This means that in the unlikely event you ever consider cruising down a Missouri highway with a bear in the passenger seat, you might find yourself in legal trouble. But why hasn't it been removed? Laws are much like that mystery container in the back of your fridge. Sometimes they just get forgotten and left indefinitely. Missouri isn't alone in holding on to bizarre, outdated laws. Other states have similarly strange rules that make you question what was happening when they were written. In Alaska, waking a sleeping bear to take a picture is illegal. In Arizona, you can't let a donkey sleep in a bathtub. History is filled with stories we may never fully understand regarding animal-related laws. No horses in the fountain, South Dakota. The origins of this law are murky, probably like the water after a horse bath, but it's not hard to imagine why it was put in place. For one, fountains were often symbols of prosperity, meant to make towns look more refined. A beautifully sculpted water feature was meant to impress visitors, not serve as a makeshift horse tub. Then there's the hygiene issue. Horses are majestic creatures, but let's face it, they don't have the best bathroom etiquette. If one horse takes a dip, it's only a matter of time before others follow, turning a town's prized fountain into a communal mud puddle. Before you know it, someone's filling their canteen with water just occupied by a sweaty stallion. And let's not forget about the inevitable chaos. Despite their noble reputation, horses are not known for their delicate movements. A 1,000-pound animal splashing around could easily damage the fountain, spook nearby pedestrians, or inspire local kids to try it themselves. 1 minute, it's a horse in the water. Next thing you know, a whole group of unruly children are attempting their own Wild West-style pool party. No eating fried chicken with a fork. Georgia. Gainesville, Georgia proudly calls itself the poultry capital of the world for a good reason. The town's economy has been built on the chicken industry, making poultry not just food, but a way of life. So, in 1961, city officials decided to solidify Gainesville's love for its favorite dish by passing an ordinance declaring that fried chicken must be eaten only with one's hands. Using a fork? That's downright un-Southern. While this law sounds absurd, it reflects Southern tradition. Fried chicken is meant to be an experience that involves rolling up your sleeves, embracing the crunch, and letting the juices drip down your fingers. In Gainesville's eyes, a fork strips the dish of its soul. It's the equivalent of eating a taco with a spoon or trying to enjoy pizza with chopsticks. It's just wrong. Now, you might be wondering, has anyone been arrested for this? Well, sort of. In 2009, a woman visiting from Louisiana found herself on the wrong side of Gainesville's poultry police. She was eating fried chicken with a fork when a city official, who also happened to be dressed as a police officer, presented her with a mock citation for breaking the law. The situation, of course, was all in good fun. The woman laughed, the officer laughed, and the entire event served as a lighthearted reminder that Gainesville takes its chicken seriously. And honestly, if you're going to be arrested for something, getting busted for improper fried chicken consumption is probably one of the best-case scenarios. No bathing less than once a year. Kentucky. The origins of this peculiar law are murky, but one thing is clear. Personal hygiene wasn't always a top priority in history. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, regular bathing wasn't as common as today. Many believed too much bathing could harm your health, stripping the body of its essential oils. Others lacked access to clean water or proper bathing facilities. Given these circumstances, it's unsurprising that Kentucky lawmakers stepped in and set some minimum hygiene standards. But why 1 bath per year? Was this a compromise between those who wanted mandatory daily showers and those who preferred the once-in-a-lifetime approach? We may never know, but it's safe to say that this law was necessary if people were going years without washing. The biggest mystery surrounding this law is enforcement. How exactly do authorities ensure that every Kentuckian meets their yearly cleanliness quota? One could imagine a group of bath inspectors patrolling towns, conducting random sniff tests, and issuing citations to anyone who smelled suspiciously ripe. "Sir, step aside. Our records show you haven't bathed since last Christmas. I'm going to have to write you up for felony funk." Of course, there's no record of anyone being arrested or fined for skipping their annual bath. That means one of two things. Either every single resident of Kentucky has been in perfect compliance with the law, highly unlikely, or authorities realized that enforcing it would be more disgusting than the crime itself. Either way, it remains a hilarious piece of legal history. Nowadays, the idea of bathing once a year sounds absurd. Thanks to modern plumbing and hygiene standards, most people bathe daily, or at least a few times a week. No judgment. We now understand that regular washing helps prevent infections, reduces body odor, and keeps skin healthy. Science suggests that the human nose can detect over 1 trillion different smells, meaning skipping baths for months is a recipe for social disaster. Yet, in a bizarre twist, some recent health trends have argued against frequent bathing, claiming excessive washing can damage skin and strip away beneficial bacteria. Kentucky may be ahead of its time. Or was this law meant to be the bare minimum for those who thought bathing was an unnecessary luxury? Either way, once a year is not a hygiene goal anyone should strive for. No kissing in public. Oklahoma, 1900s. If you ever find yourself in Oklahoma and feel the urge to share a romantic kiss with your significant other, you might want to look around first, because once upon a time, that could have been illegal. In the early 1900s, Oklahoma passed a law banning public displays of affection, including kissing, to preserve public morality. We must return to the early 1900s to understand why Oklahoma outlawed public kissing. At that time, social norms were much stricter than they are today. Holding hands was a big deal, and kissing in public was practically the Wild West equivalent of skydiving without a parachute. Believe it or not, Oklahoma wasn't alone in this crusade against lip-locking. Public displays of affection were frowned upon in many parts of the country. The 1896 silent film, The Kiss, which featured 18 seconds of a couple kissing, was considered so shocking that it led to public outrage. Some critics even labeled it disgusting and immoral, fearing that such displays would lead to society's downfall. Now, let's imagine a classic Wild West love story. Fresh off a long day of cattle herding, a rugged cowboy rides into town to see his sweetheart. They lock eyes across the dusty road. He tips his hat, she blushes, and just as he leans in for a farewell kiss before galloping into the sunset, bam! The sheriff slaps a fine on them for breaking the no-kissing law. Talk about ruining the romance. The idea of a law enforcement officer enforcing a public kissing ban might sound like something out of a bad comedy movie. But the truth is that these kinds of moral laws were taken seriously. Lawmakers believed that public kissing could corrupt the minds of impressionable young people, leading to a society of unbridled passion and chaos. If only they could have seen what would be considered normal in today's world, where people propose on jumbotrons and kiss cam moments at sporting events, which are a staple of entertainment. No selling dogs on Sundays. New York, 1930s. This bizarre law prohibited the sale of dogs on Sundays, one of the many strange regulations passed in the early 20th century. While the rule may seem ridiculous today, it had its roots in something quite serious: blue laws. These laws were designed to restrict certain Sunday activities, usually encouraging rest, religious observance, or good old-fashioned family time. Unfortunately, no one stopped to consider why dogs, in particular, needed to be protected from Sunday sales. The most baffling part of this law is that it only applies to dogs. If you wanted to buy a horse, a cow, or even a slightly suspicious-looking parrot, there were no issues. But for some reason, dog sales were off limits. Perhaps lawmakers believed that dogs were too much of a distraction from Sunday's intended purpose of relaxation and worship. Or maybe someone in power hated the idea of puppies getting adopted on the Lord's Day. Another theory is that this law extended broader restrictions on business activity. In the 1930s, many stores were required to close on Sundays to give workers a day off. Pet shops might have fallen under this umbrella, but they singled out dogs instead of banning all animal sales. It's almost as if someone said, "We can't have people out here buying puppies and being too happy on a Sunday." Strangely enough, many outdated laws never officially get removed, meaning there's a chance this rule is technically still on the books, while it's highly unlikely that modern pet stores are enforcing it. The thought of a store owner denying a Sunday dog sale just for historical accuracy is amusing. Today, blue laws have mostly faded away, but their influence lingers. Some states still have restrictions on alcohol sales on Sundays, and a few places even have limits on certain types of business operations. But thankfully, if you suddenly decide you need a dog on a Sunday in New York, you're free to bring home your new best friend. No waiting is required. No fortune-telling. Maryland. Maryland once had laws banning fortune-telling, especially if you were getting paid. These laws, which existed in places like Montgomery County, made it illegal to accept money for services like palm reading, tarot card reading, or crystal ball gazing. The reasoning? Officials argued that fortune-telling was inherently fraudulent and could be used to scam people. Because, of course, everyone who ever paid a psychic expected 100% accuracy, right? This law wasn't just some old relic collecting dust. In 2008, a fortune teller named Nick Nefedro tried to open a business in Bethesda, Maryland, but was blocked due to Montgomery County's strict laws. He took the county to court in response, arguing that banning fortune-telling for money violated free speech. The battle went all the way to the Maryland Court of Appeals, and in 2010, the court ruled that the law was unconstitutional. You can predict the future for a fee, at least according to the First Amendment. The official reasoning behind the law was to protect citizens from fraud. County officials worried fortune tellers might exploit vulnerable people, promising things like love, riches, or a ghost-free attic if they just forked over enough cash. However, the courts ultimately ruled that the government should not decide whether fortune-telling is legitimate, pure entertainment, or complete nonsense. Fortune tellers could practice their mystical arts in Maryland if they followed general business regulations. However, some counties still have restrictions or licensing requirements for fortune-telling businesses, so if you're considering setting up a shop, you might want to check the legal fine print or consult your crystal ball. So, whether you're a history buff, a law-abiding citizen, or just someone who enjoys a good laugh, remember, the Wild West wasn't just wild, it was also weird. And thankfully, no one's getting arrested today for buying a dog on Sunday. Thanks for watching.